The New York City Football Club will open its 11th season tomorrow. It'll be the 11th consecutive time on the road as well. We've got Pascal Janssen. We've got Bruce Arena. We're going to talk about some new signings and a whole lot more on NYCFC Views live from Fort Lauderdale.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
All right, I'm Glenn Crooks. There's Roberto Abramowitz in our, not adjoining, I don't even actually know where you are in this hotel. But anyway, we have been enjoying ourselves a bit as we relax and prepare for New York City against Miami CF to kick off 2025. And Roberto, welcome. Last time these two teams played, two players scored in that game that are no longer with their clubs. James Sands, who we'll talk about a little later, had a very unfortunate injury, but he had that late equalizer at Yankee Stadium. And Leo Campana, he was the one who scored for Inter Miami in that game, and now he's trying to score goals for New England. So things change, Roberto, from season to season, don't they?
They do, but it's season number 11, and something that doesn't change from season to season is you and I, because we will be back for our 11th season, calling games, you in English and me in Spanish.
I had less gray hair, you had more hair, and I think when we started, and it's really been a treat, and it's pretty intriguing this go round. You know, we've gone through now. This will be the sixth head coach that you and I have started to get to know a bit, Pascal Janssen, and we got a chance to see him run training yesterday for the first time. It was impressive. It's impressive to sit and talk with him, and you know he's got a pretty difficult task ahead of him with these opening two games. But let's see if this bulletproof mentality can supersede what is a New York City team that you'd have to say is less. I don't want to say less prepared or less talented, because that's going to sound insulting. But Miami's a better team coming in. Let's just put it that way.
Well, they have one guy who's worth like $55 million. So you got that. Yeah.
No, I mean, and he's sharp.
Very easy math. Now, look, I mean, Suarez isn't the Suarez that we knew back in when he was playing with Liverpool, or when he was playing with Messi over in Barcelona. Obviously, he's not the same guy. Messi has probably lost a step. But God, if you look at the goal that he scored against Sporting Kansas City in anywhere between 0 degrees and 5 degrees at that point in the night, in Kansas City, Kansas. I mean, that is just freaking amazing.
And he made a 180-degree move in order to get himself into position to score that goal. So you're talking about the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Well, since we're talking about it, let's show it. I think we could talk over this, right? Shane, our producer. Here's the Messi goal from the other night, and so you can get if you are watching and not just listening to us, you get a visual here from Busquets. And it's really, there's his maneuvering and the goal with the right foot. If we could play it again, Shane, once it's over, can you pause it? So there's Busquets.
I guess he can.
Yeah, nice job, Shane. So I just, as you know, Roberto, I do watch every game with a coach's eye, and sometimes that sucks the enjoyment out of it a little bit, because I feel like I'm always just trying to see what the heck is going on in the game. But Messi had made a move towards Busquets and then a burst in behind. And here's the thing. Those two have played so many games together. And you talk about relationships on the field. Shane, can you bring it back a little? All right. and stop it when Messi checks to the ball. Go ahead, play it right now. So you see he'd come towards the ball. Now he's going in behind. Busquets knows this. Whichever way Messi starts, if he were charging in behind at first, Busquets would know he's coming back to get it at his feet. And this is the fun part of watching Miami play. And as my co-commentator Matty Lawrence, that's good enough, Shane. Matty Lawrence said yesterday on our drive to the airport, he was like, "It's Messi and his friends, and they're in the playground." And that's what it looks like when you watch them play. They enjoy playing football.
They do. I mean, there was a lot of players that may not have wanted to play under the conditions that Miami had to play in and Kansas City had to play in. I remember back when Henry was playing for the Red Bulls and he didn't want to play on artificial turf. I was just reading, and I sent this to you, the new contract that Sergio Ramos signed
I read
with Monterrey in Mexico. And in that contract, it specifies that he can basically opt out of any game that he wants. So, there's that. And then here are these guys who could basically say, you know who we are. And, may not want to play under those conditions, but they were there. They were there. They played. They not only played, they played 90 minutes. So, I give them credit. Now, I posted something on my Facebook page in Spanish, and I just basically got killed by all the fans in Mexico, sort of like, well, they've got a contract. What are they, why are you, making a big deal out of, them playing a game? What about everybody else? Well, they're not everybody else. This is, arguably either to some people the greatest player of all time or top 2 or top 3, depending who you speak with. And then you have one of the great goal scorers of all time in Suarez, to say nothing of Sergio Busquets, who's an all-timer for Spain. And you would think, right, that under these sort of conditions, they may, they could have basically said, we'll pass. And it would almost be understandable to a certain extent. But no, they went out. And I think that Matty's choice of words and how he sees it is really important. And I think that it really brings to the front of what this is. It's the joy of the game. It's the joy of actually going out there.
I agree with it.
Playing. And that means that you've got to be prepared to do this. That means that you got to train hard. It's not a pickup game. These are competitive games. They want to win every single game. They're furious about the fact that they got smacked around by Atlanta and lost in, the first round of the playoffs after winning Supporter Shield, when their goal was they have to win MLS Cup. So, these are people with a lot of talent and a lot of pride. And all they want to do is win, and they're going to do whatever it takes. And that means working hard off the field and working hard on the field. And I give them credit for that. Am I being naive by saying that? And that everybody should have.
I think I'm going to simplify it. I'm going to simplify it, though, Roberto. I think they just, and I think you saw it in Messi's body language and Busquets the other night, and Suarez to a point too. They just enjoy. They just love playing the game, and they are not a team. I would object to the part of the training. I'm not saying they don't prepare themselves. I'm saying they would rather not train. And a lot of players might say the same sort of thing, but a lot of players enjoy training. I mean, they that's the time for them to get a little better and coordinate. These guys, if they had their choice, they would just go out and play games. I'm telling you right now.
They would, and I get it. But I think also, Glenn, that they also understand that they need to train, maybe not as hard as they used to, and and all of that. But they need to train to be able to compete. They don't want to lose. And they understand that if they don't train properly, whatever properly is for them at their age, okay? And we understand that, people their age get extra days off and maybe don't have to do all the things. And, because they're so smart, they don't have to maybe run as hard and do things. We get that. Well, at least I do. And I know you do. And people who are in the sport do. But they want to win, and they know that they've got to be prepared to win. If they don't train and they're going out and eating fast food every day and they're not
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
what they need to do,
That's
they're not
not.
going to win.
Yeah, that's not what they're doing. I get it. No, you're right. I get it. Well, let's get we when we last convened, New York City still had one more match left at Coachella. They won it on an Alonso Martinez goal against Minnesota. So Martinez finishes preseason with 4 goals. And as you know, Roberto, he scored his very first goal, and we're just going to play this short clip. His very first goal at Inter Miami, the site of tomorrow's match. So he's got to feel good. And there it is. No sound. You want me to call it again? I'll call it again if you want.
No, it's fine. We're good. We're good. We can see it. It's TV,
so
we can see it.
Yeah, no, it's very good. And there's the supporters. By the way, you saw the New York City supporters there. That there's about 200 of them that are traveling, and I guess they're getting together tonight somewhere. If any of them are watching this right now, tell us where you're going, and maybe we can I don't know, crash the party or at least
by. Yeah, absolutely. We've got nothing to do after this podcast, so we're going to go someplace.
You can kill that, Shane.
Where they are, well, we might join in.
Yeah, they're gathering somewhere, but about 200 strong, which is good. And that's the amount of tickets that were made available to New York City supporters.
I heard, if we want to get into the exactitudes of all of this, so there's supposed to be 210 tickets distributed. There are about 20 people that couldn't make it because of the fact that the game time changed. Remember, it was a 2:30 game, and then they had to move it to 7:30 to accommodate Inter Miami due to the fact that they had to play on Wednesday instead of last Tuesday in the Champions Cup. Yep. So there's a lot of people that, because they would miss flights, couldn't stay for the game and all of this. And I hope that MLS or New York City or somebody, right, CONCACAF, whoever it is, because, these fans paid money for tickets, hotels, and everything to be down here to support the team. I hope somebody within the league, the team, CONCACAF, whatever, makes things right for them in one way or another. I don't know what it looks like, but I hope that they do something to make things right for them, because it's an unfortunate thing. And I get, things like this happen and nobody's ticket is guaranteed and nothing's ever guaranteed, but still, so I think something should be done. I think it'd be a nice gesture.
It'd be a very nice gesture. I vote for the league to do it. No, I vote for CONCACAF to pay their refund. That's what I vote for CONCACAF. All right. So there's some injury concerns coming into the season, and one person that we were able to see at practice, and when we got there was Thiago Martins on the essentially the B team. They were the reserve team against what we would anticipate would be the starters for the match tomorrow. And then it turns out Pascal Janssen tells us in his weekly presser that it was his first time out there on the grass with the team. So here with me and my one-on-one, which will be part of the pregame show tomorrow on our radio broadcast, here's Pascal giving us the injury update on Martins.
Positive, to be honest. Today was his first session with the team without any modifications, so that's very, very big achievement from the medical staff together with Thiago. But going into this preseason, the first few moments I had to watch the training sessions, and he was already struggling just a little bit with his calf. I wasn't available to be on the pitch myself. And going into Santa Barbara, he only trained with us one session, and then the calf was there. Injuries are always a part of a season, but you hope that the availability of the players will be as high as possible. But going back into history with Thiago's background, he's had some injuries, so we know his body is something that he has to take special care of, and that's what we've done over the past 4 weeks, and that's why he's almost available again. And looking forward, I hope he will stay available because he's a good player for our squad.
Good and important. We would assume that Strahinja Tanasiewicz, who is nursing a right foot injury, will be his replacement next to Burke Risa at the back. So, it's somewhat difficult times. And the other part of the injuries is Kevin O'Toole missed the last 2 games down or out in California. And he was replaced by Nico Cavallo, who signed a contract with New York City today, along with Max Murray. their top draft. So that's their first round draft pick, and then Cavallo, the second round draft pick. They both. It was announced today that they had signed contracts, and that was certainly anticipated, especially for Cavallo because he's the backup left back right now. So if something happened to O'Toole, he is in the match. We also, Tavon Gray went down at the end, near the end of that. That wasn't near the end. Sometime in the second half of that Minnesota game exhibition at Coachella, and he hasn't recovered fully. He was training on the side yesterday, so he is not available. So Thiago Martins, Tavon Gray, not available. Micha Ilinic is. I thought he was injured down there because he wasn't around, but no. This is great news. Micha Ilinic got his green card. So this is a happy day for him. He was all smiles, and that's why he missed the last 2 games down at Coachella. So he's ready to go. And because Gray is out, you would assume that's where we're going to see Ilinic at the start of the game over there on the right at the back.
Yeah. And then, we have a question for Miami, right? You spoke about all the injuries for New York City and all that. Now we've got to figure out how Miami is going to play. And, based on the people that I've spoken to on the team, they expect their full squad. There might be some minor rotations here and there. And the reason I speak about this is because of the fact that they had to play Wednesday. Messi went 90 minutes. A lot of the starters went, long minutes and, ridiculous temperatures in Kansas City. They've got to play, obviously, on Saturday. And even though they pushed the game to the evening, but next Tuesday, they've got to play again against Sporting Kansas City in the return match. And, so you wonder how much rotation there might be if Javier Mascherano is going to keep the starting 11 or he's going to make some rotations, especially because, you consider the fact that, Messi isn't a spring chicken. Busquets isn't a spring chicken. Suarez isn't a spring chicken. Alba didn't play. I presume he's going to play on Saturday. But, some of these main guys, we'll see if they start. And if they do, how long they go. If they don't, will they come off the bench? How does this affect this? It's an interesting chess game that, that they have to play because they've got to consider the fact that they only have a 1-0 lead, against Sporting Kansas City. And if they think that that's somehow a safe lead, all they've got to do is think back to November of 2024, where they thought that, getting 1-goal advantages against Atlanta would be fine and be able to push them through the next round, and turned out it wasn't.
Kramaski, Fafa Pico, Robert Taylor, David Ruiz, Julian Gressel. Those are some of the people on the bench. So if any of those players actually moved into a starting role to give a bit of a breather and bring someone like I fully expect Messi to be on the pitch. It's interesting because even my wife asked me, and she doesn't track these things, but she was watching some of the game with me the other night, and it's like, so he probably can't play on Saturday, right? And I said, well, look, the analytics on Messi, and one of the reasons he can log so many minutes, and then you can go back also and say, well, he's been injured a lot, and he's only played in a little over half of the games at Miami that he has been there for. And has amazing stats, obviously, but he has missed a lot of time. But if he is fit and not injured, he can play back-to-back games like this because he does not run a lot. He does not put a lot of the load that they use on all these different devices. We could see him burst. He'll sprint at times. He'll defend a little bit, not much. And that's why he can play a lot of games. If he gets injured, he's injured. But he's not injured now, and he's very sharp. He's starting on Saturday. That's what I say.
Yeah, I think he is too. I think all these guys are going to wind up starting, and I think New York City basically expects them to start too. They're not going to be surprised that Messi's in the lineup or Suarez is in the lineup. They're expecting them. They're preparing for this.
So. For New York City, part of the question, and this is developed over preseason, Roberto, and I know you saw the games, and we've talked about this already on the podcast, but Alonso Martinez, who is he going to team up with up top? Against San Diego down there, New York City won the game 3-1, and it was Alonso Martinez and Monza Bakrar. And they looked very good together. I've asked Pascal Janssen about that combination together, and I think his exact comment was he'd be a fool not to investigate it because they're goal scorers. Now we know Bakrar had some issues, but he seems to be in a better place now. So what I'm going to play here is a portion of an interview with Pascal Janssen for the pregame show, his comments about Bakrar, and then Bakrar after that San Diego game. And listen closely, and you get the feeling that maybe, just maybe, Janssen will be able to unlock Bakrar in the goal scoring department. But we'll see. That remains to be seen. But here's the clip.
Because, as you say, he gets himself into good positions, and that was also the case last season. But he was not able to finish off every chance that he created or was created for him. We know Muncev is a finisher. If you watch the games and the training sessions now, you see that he's finding a good balance between linking up with players and being in the box and finishing the attacks. I think the goal that he scored against San Diego is a good example of being on time. And if you look back at that moment in the sequence and you see the willingness that he shows in order to be in the box to finish this cross from Alonso, shows that he's really committed. And I strongly believe when a player feels good and he's in a good space, feeling confident, you will always be able to add 15 to 20% extra to your game level. And at the moment, a lot of these guys are in a good place.
I feel like I'm free, like comparing to the last season. I feel like I have like one freedom. I feel like the coach wants me to do what I'm capable to do, and I don't feel any pressure and everything. So I'm glad to feel like that because it's most important to me. Like even if I miss the chances, it's okay. He never he know how to treat me. That's the most important. And yeah. With some patience, I scored a goal.
So two things there. Bakrar saying he knows how to treat me. I don't know what that means in comparison to when Nick Cushing was the head coach, and we both recall Bakrar leaping into the arms of Nick Cushing after scoring against the Red Bulls because our assumption was it was because Nick, stuck with him even though he was failing to score. So that's one part of that. And then the other part is where Janssen says, when you're feeling good about yourself, it's you increase your productivity by 15 to 20%. Now, I don't know if that's he's got empirical evidence on this, but nonetheless, that's his, that's how he feels. And, in the history of his coaching, that's what he's noticed is getting players to feel comfortable and they produce more. So that's why you wonder if it will work better with Bakrar.
It's one of the interesting things about this season, right? The fact that the team is banking on so far that the players that they have enough talent to be able to improve from last year's performances. And I don't mean improve because they're getting better coaching or anything. Just the fact that they're so young in so many cases that, the natural progression is to be able to get better. Remember, New York City was either the youngest or the second youngest team in MLS last season. So, so far as we know, James Sands is gone. So you're losing that. And I think that's going to wind up being a priority for the team in trying to replace him. Right now, you've got Hack, but you don't have anybody behind Hack who's a real six for this team. So you would think that the team is going to look to fill that position with the whole, the opportunity with DPs and everything else, and the signings that they can make. So you've got that. You would think that if Santi, winds up going to Botafogo and that deal gets completed, then they need another 10 at some point, right? They can play without a 10 if they need to, but if they want a 10, then you've got Maxi, but he's 37 years old. Then you who backs up Maxi? There's the only other 10 is Maximo Carrizo at this point, and he may not be game ready, but we'll find out. He played very well, with the U17s, but it's a big leap to go from the U17s to be playing in MLS, and we'll see how if he gets a chance and all that.
If we use the David Lee, his initial presser, his first thoughts in 2025 regarding transfers, and one of his reasoning that maybe versus other teams there weren't a boatload or any transfers in, is he wanted Pascal to be given time. And I think it is with players like Johnny Shore and Maximo Carrizo to see if he thinks, if the guy leading the charge and a guy that has a history with young players, if he thinks that Carrizo could be Maxi Morales' backup, perhaps, before you go out and get a 10. But 6, we know 6 is 6, 10. I still say 9. If you're just leaving,
I don't know if you're going to get a 9 right now when you have Martinez and Baccarat. I don't think, unless one of them gets hurt, then I think you can live with 9. I would think, backup left back or somebody to compete with O'Toole for left back, unless Carvalho winds up filling that role. We're going to see the young kids and see
central defense before fullback, I think, maybe, because they just signed this kid Cavallo, and he's going to be the guy. And you got 2 on the right when Gray gets healthy, and then and you got Drew Baera. I'm not sure if he's going to stick or be an MLS Next Pro player. But at central defense, who do you have? Martins has been out a long time. We don't know if he'll be back for LAFC next weekend. He'll have to train full in order for that to happen. He's back home, continuing his rehab and trying to get himself ready. Strahinja Tanasiewicz, he's playing on a bad foot. Now, it's getting better. I mean, it's pain tolerance is what he said. So it's like it's getting better. It's pain tolerant. And then Burke Risa has, let's face it, he's had a pretty consistent history of getting banged up and missing some time here and there. So who fits into these places? I mean,
they signed one of the kids,
Max Murray,
today, right? Which is Max Murray. So,
but he's not ready, in my estimation.
I presume he's not. I presume he's not. So, but you've got a body there in case somebody else gets hurt. And then obviously you don't want to do this, but if you need to, you can always drop Justin Hack into the back line.
Yes, so that's an option. And then you're playing a 4-3-3 with Pereira, Parks, and Maxi, or whoever else the 10 is,
right? Which
is what he did, as opposed to like the really kind of 4-2-3-1, and then the midfielders are just rotating, and which is not that's a very Dutch way to play. So it's certainly something he's accustomed to teaching. Yeah, Max Murray. It's interesting. 17th overall pick. So he and Cavallo both signed deals through the end of this season, and then there's options attached to that. So obviously, how they develop is going to play a role as to whether the team wants to keep them on board. Cavallo was playing at UCLA this fall at Rutgers University. I saw the game. I called the game. Yeah. So he's probably not ready either. But he might be thrust into action, and maybe Maxwell at some point too. I don't know.
And going back to the 10, I mean, Hannes Wolf during preseason played that position as well. So you could always put Hannes there if they think he can thrive there, and then you can use Julian Fernandez on the right, and then Agustin Ojeda on the left.
Well, he did play the 10. He never was on the ball. Never is a slight exaggeration.
Yeah.
He hadn't been there in a while. I remember last year at this time, there was consideration for him as the 10 because Maxi was still recovering. And that ended up getting more settled with Santi Rodriguez coming in. And Hannes Wolf, we'll get to Santi in a second. Hannes Wolf, since you bring Hannes Wolf up, Pascal Janssen, I asked him about Hannes Wolf. 1 goal, 1 assist in his last 20 matches, all competitions for New York City FC, and kept playing and playing and playing. And here's what he said. His goal contributions came in the first half of the season, and then it tailed off. I'm not sure if you've identified what might have been occurring there and why he wasn't as impactful, and what, if anything, has changed here in the preseason leading into the Miami game.
Interesting, because we've talked about Hannes quite a few moments with the staff also. I know he had a fantastic start last season. Going back in how he got himself into the club and into the MLS is a huge part, because he came in very fit, playing at that time already. So he just progressed on from that moment on. But then once he was adapted to the MLS and knew what this league was about, he was struggling just a little bit in the second half. And that also has something to do with how the seasons are played back in Europe. So if you go to this league, you play in different periods compared to the leagues that are played in Europe. So that's one part.
So it almost makes sense that he might have struggled a little bit more in the latter.
No, I don't think it makes sense, because that's making up excuses.
Okay.
It never makes sense. You just have to be ready to perform. But it gives you a lot of lessons to learn, and taking that in consideration, he has learned a lot over the second part of the season, and being available for this season helps him with the knowledge from last season.
Yeah.
There you go. I like it. Yep. Not an excuse.
It doesn't make sense. Great. Now, I want to, when we turn that's part of the pregame show that's coming up tomorrow at what time? At 7:15 Eastern
7:15.
for both Roberto and myself on Spanish and English. So when we stopped recording the interview, I just made the observation. I don't know if you remember this moment in training, but I thought it was almost seminal for me, because the ball was played. He was on the right, and we were playing full-sided, going to goal, and the ball was dinked over the top, and he ran onto it and used his body, first of all, really effectively on Cavallo, the defender. Cavallo's a big and strong kid, so he kept the ball on he kept it on his right foot, shot and scored with his right foot. Now, you tell me, last year, how often did he ever get in and shoot with his right foot? He might have.
Almost never. It was rare.
So Pascal just smiled. He goes, well, he's still developing, and but I just think there's been an emphasis. Something's going on there where Hannes Wolf, he's got a good chance to start again tomorrow. He was in Nick Cushing's lineup all the time. So there's something about this guy that the coaches see. But
there's one thing that was important, and Nick mentioned it often last year. And that although offensively he may have struggled, especially towards the end of the year, second half of the season, especially after Leagues Cup, where I think he just went blank. But defensively, he was very, very strong. There was a lot of work that he put in to the team defensively, which helped the defense, right? So it wasn't just assisting either Gray or Ilinich on that side. It was everybody. And there was a lot of work put into that. And I think that they didn't want to take that out of the lineup.
Well, he became consistently ineffective on the attack, lacked confidence big time. Once he got into the penalty area, he was uncertain, and it was unusual for a kid. He is a kid to me and us, but a kid of this experience, a lot of experience playing in some big matches. And I just hope that he can gain in that area. And if he becomes impactful in the opponent's penalty area, then I've got no problem with him being out there, 90 minutes.
Of course, but you want to see him be aggressive. You want him to have the confidence to take the shot. There was so many times that he would come in on the right side, and he had the shot first time, but he decided to dribble. He decided to try to beat somebody or decided to pass, and he just didn't shoot, And then at that point, goalies relax on you because he's not going to shoot. I don't have to worry about it. Something I wanted to tell you, I forgot to tell you yesterday, which was part of my conversation with Alonso Martinez, who's my special guest in the pregame show in Spanish. And I asked Alonso, I said, so who's taking penalty kicks? Because Santi Rodriguez was the one taking penalty kicks last year. And he says, I want to take the penalty kicks. He goes, well, of course, I'm going to grab the ball. He says, but I know that Hannes Wolf is probably going to want to take it. And maybe Berk Riese is going to want to take it. So, but I'm grabbing the ball. So if there's a penalty, it's going to be very interesting to see who grabs the ball. But Alonso has raised his hand saying he wants that responsibility.
Well, you just lost your audio, Roberto. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Your audio just went off.
Can. Oh.
Okay. Well, here's what I'll follow up while you're fixing your audio by saying this. If anyone other than Alonso Martinez. Okay, so Shane can hear you, but I can't.
Oh,
This is odd. Let me go to my settings.
So
We're
it's
live,
you.
folks. And this is what happens sometimes. Hold
I
on
can
a
hear
second.
you.
Oh, I know that
And yeah, Shane can
my
hear me.
microphone also went off, didn't it? Hold on.
No, your mic is
How about
fine.
how's that? I can't hear
Well,
Roberto.
it changed, but it's still fine.
Son of a gun.
So I have an answer. Why do you keep on fixing?
Somebody
want to
type a suggestion for me here? Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
In
Yes.
my microphone. Okay.
100%. We hear you.
Well, what I was going to say, I'm going to just say what I was going to say, and then hopefully something amazing will happen here where we can, why does it say test? Is that Alonso Martinez needs to take the penalties. If he picks the ball up, let him take the penalty. He's the goal scorer, man. He's a goal scorer, and he can take penalties. So Alonso Martinez should be taking the penalties. This is what I think. And
I agree. He
outside
agrees
of that,
too.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do here because I can't hear
You
Roberto.
can't hear me? Can you hear me?
I'm going to you keep talking, and I would
I'll
say
keep
pick up
talking.
from
I'll answer some of the questions in
and
the meantime.
I'll log out and come back in. I think that's about the only thing I can do right now, right? Is
Yep.
that what I should do? Okay, I'll see you all in a bit.
Well, we finally got rid of them. God, that took so long to do that. Just kidding. Anyway, let me answer some of the questions that we have over here. So we're going to go with this. Shane, let's go with KP's question, because I think this is an important one because we want people to listen to us on the radio. So the easiest thing to do is that our pregame shows are both on NYCFC.com/radio. That gets you to our tune-in channels, Glenn in English and myself in Spanish. So you can definitely go there. Glenn will continue to do, I believe, a YouTube pregame show. Can you hear me, Glenn? And I can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yep, I'm back.
We'll continue to do a YouTube pregame show. What time does that start for you?
That will start at 6:45. So it's we're always 45 minutes before quote unquote kickoff, which is never at the bottom of the hour or the top of the hour. It's 8 minutes past the hour, but 6:45. Maddie and I will have our pregame live, and then from the field, which is it's cool. It's nice. You get a feel for the atmosphere, and we'll talk about the game. We'll play some more clips just to give you a feel for it. And then at 7:15, Roberto and I, and we invite you to sync the video with the audio. It's not a difficult thing to do. It just you have to line it up at kickoff. That's the thing. And
and Apple TV is behind our broadcast. So we're about 5 to 7 seconds behind live action. And then Apple TV is anywhere between a minute to a minute 20 behind live action. So you're going to have to pause us and then sync it up to the TV to be able to.
And it's our responsibility to make it very clear that it's all right. We're just about to have kickoff, so you can pause the thing and make it work.
I have to be better at that because sometimes, obviously sometimes you can hear, you can hear the whistle and things like that, and then you know when to go. But I've got to be better at saying there's a kickoff because normally I'm just like talking through the kickoff. I don't make a huge deal about it. In Spanish, oh my God, I don't know if you've heard some of these in Spanish, but like every time there's the game starts and they start screaming like crazy, it's the beginning of the game. And it's just, for me, it's just over the top. I what's going on.
Sometimes it's over the top. Sometimes the emotion.
Hey, we got a lot of questions. I want to go through this because they're writing in. We asked them to write in, and then we're ignoring them. So that's not cool.
All right. So if you could assign a grade to the roster for NYC roster 2025 from Jose Dorbecker, what would it be? Well, I would. Last year
they incomplete.
It is incomplete. I think it's unfair to grade something, especially before it's even. Well, they're asking about the roster. So if it's incomplete, it's the same roster essentially as last year, with the exception of James Sands. You can't really talk about McFarlane and Jovan Mijatovic very much.
But Santiago Rodriguez you can talk about because he was key.
Well, but yeah. but I was just getting to those two guys because they didn't play a lot of minutes. But
Right.
yes, Sandy Rodriguez was, you could arguably the MVP of the team with 22 goal contributions, and just came up with so many big moments. And as you say, took the penalties, which was huge because there were some big moments there. So until those moving parts, we've talked about the 6 and we have talked about the 10 and how it's all going to come together. But since if you're putting a gun to my head, putting a grade to this roster, they finished 6th in the Eastern Conference last year, which is a little bit above average. So I'll give it a C+.
Okay.
That's all. C is average, C+, a little above average, finishing 6th out of 14 teams. So yeah, I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if anybody in the club is listening, and I'll hear about this, but it's.
Well, when I see that you've been ejected from the hotel, I'll find out what they think.
Well, we're going with A+ down. C+ is above average, so I don't think that's a horrible statement to the roster.
No, it's not. To me, it's an incomplete. I can't grade it until I see them play. And you also have to understand that there's going to be 4 spots if the Santi Rodriguez deal goes through, and that finally ever gets announced. So if that goes through, then you have 4 open spots that they've got to fill. And that also, I believe, leaves them with how many? So Santi was the DP. The only other DP was Martins, right? Martins.
Right. So
because Thiago
because Tyler Magno was a young
Tyler
DP.
Magno was the other one.
Yeah.
So you're going to have 2 possible DP signings still out there. When are they going to be available? Do you get a player now? Do you wait until the summer? But then if you wait until the summer, then how long does it take him to get into form with the team and understand? I mean, all these things sometimes take a lot of time. It's going to be interesting to see what they wound up doing. So as far as transfers are concerned, so Davey 95.
Everybody's got those. Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know now, Roberto.
Everybody wants to know
who's
about
coming in. Who's coming in? We don't have any player names for you. I heard one thing about one of these cash for trade, not a possibility, just maybe an intent, but I don't think it's going that they're going to get anything through that mechanism either, the internal MLS cash trade deal. But look, you need a 6 and you need a 10. I think you need a central defender. So whatever order or priority you want to put, I think 6 is a good start because that's such a is it a quarterback 6? A playmaking 6? Is it a Pirlo kind of 6, or is it a James Sands kind of 6 too? That's the other thing. I mean, you've got possibilities there if you're going to fill that spot as to the profile of that player. So,
but also, Glenn, I want to see. I mean, they still have until April, right? This window is open until April, and so I want to see I want to see Justin Hack fill that role and how he does. And then you're deciding, do I bring somebody who's in front of Justin, or do I bring somebody to back up Justin? But I want to see Justin get the opportunity to take that position. I mean, he's earned it, and he's played, and he's gotten better every year, every game.
Well, he's going to get I mean, these first 2 games, I mean, even if somebody came in today, they're not playing at LA. So, I mean, he's getting a really good chance over these first 2 games. Put Davi 95 up. He's got an idea of who New York City should get. No, the other one, yeah. Kevin De Bruyne. Bring him in. I'm all for that.
I'm for that.
Yeah, I will be for that.
I'll go meet him at the airport if you want.
Yeah, I would go for I'd go to the airport for that one. Not that I wouldn't go to the airport for, Monsef Bakrar too, but I'd go to the airport for Kevin De Bruyne. You know what I mean? All right, what interesting. So at Coachella ran into 2 people, and we talked about this last week. 2 former New York City players, Alfredo Morales and Tommy Mack. Morales was trialing with St. Louis City. That deal was consummated, so he made the team. He was signed.
Oh, so you're allowed to talk about him now?
I can say his name. Yeah, we can now say his name if he goes on the field.
Is a cease and desist letter coming?
Yeah, I don't know yet. And then Tommy Mack, John Rojas, our spy out in Portland, said he was training yesterday, but they still haven't made an announcement. It's going to be decided within the week. I think that Phil Neville told John that within the next week they'll decide to see if Tommy Mack makes the grade. How about another former New York City player, Jonathan Lewis, signs with Barnsley, which was interesting. So he left Colorado, and he is there. There's another American player there whose name is escaping. Donovan Pines is there as well.
DC United.
Yeah. So, and that brings us to a couple of injured players who are former players. James Sands, and the ankle fibula meniscus. He had made 4 consecutive starts. His 5th start led to this injury and stoppage time for FC St. Pauli. And it's just Brian Sciaretta had written a story about James. He had gotten an interview with him, and it was really, he pointed out to some really on the statistical side too. 3 interceptions, 4 recoveries, 2 passes in the final third, in the game before he got injured. Really doing things on both sides of the ball, playing very well. Their record was 2-2-1 in the games he started. And they're pretty clear of relegation now, which was kind of, one of the reasons they wanted him was to help them avoid relegation. But, we both have known him for a long time, and everybody in the audience loves James Sands. So, boy, he's going to be out for a while. But you said you saw something that he's going to be back in June. Was that you that said that? That said no. he said something about being back in June. Somebody told
I
me
didn't
that.
say that. I haven't read that.
Somebody saw something
That'd
from
be,
him.
that would be great.
Whoever said it to me made it sound like it came from him. So I don't know if he put it on Instagram. I don't know what.
I missed it. If anybody saw that, let us know. But I have not seen that.
Yeah. What else? And then on the same day, Tate Castellanos got injured. But we don't know to what extent, but it's an adductor, left adductor, and then there was a quote after the game, I think from the coach. It sounded like he'd be out at least 20 days. So, for him, things were going well for him too. Lazio, trying to put themselves in Champions League position. In Serie A, they're in 4th place, and he has played a major role in leading the line now. And so that's unfortunate too.
How about the 2 Dutch teams eliminating the 2 Italian teams?
Heck yeah. I love that. And that's like, so Christian Pulisic is out and Richie Ledesma is in. There were U.S. men's national team scouts at that game watching Richie Ledesma play right back for PSV. I mean, that's
pretty damn good. He's earned it. I'm thrilled for him. I'm still in contact. We still text each other every so often, and he's thriving there. And, sometimes you just need somebody who has a little bit of a different vision, or you volunteer to play a different position. Something happens, and it's worked out in spades for him because, Dest has been injured, and it's been the year that Dest has been out. And, he's taken what we like to say, the bull by the horns, and he's ingrained himself into the starting lineup over there, and he's thriving. And I'm glad that Mauricio Pochettino and his staff are, making the rounds, and I know that they're making the rounds. Well,
they'll get a chance to see him play Arsenal twice as the round of 16.
They got Arsenal?
That came out this morning, and PSV will host Arsenal on March 4th, and then the second games are played on March the 11th or 12th, March 12th for them. So he's got a couple of big games coming up.
As a Spurs fan, if PSV can beat Arsenal, it could be a pretty decent day for me. And I'm not an Arsenal hater, as a Spurs fan, but I don't love them either, mind you.
So it's the other. There's 2 other intriguing matchups in that round of 16 Champions League: Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. How about that? And then Bayern and Leverkusen, who have been battling it out recently. They just drew in league play recently, but and Xabi Alonso. I learned today, and it's no shock, but that he is. It's pretty much. I don't think that's signed. I don't know if they have pre-contracts like this for coaches, but he will replace at whatever point Carlo Ancelotti leaves Real Madrid. Xabi Alonso will be the next head coach of Real Madrid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
I
so
can't make
that's
Leverkusen happy.
yeah, no, he's a brilliant human being, Alonso. And Grant Wall, before he passed, he wrote a book, and to me it was like a coach's book. It was I forget it was like Masters of the Modern Game, something like that. And he had like Vincent Kompany, who's now a coach, and Xabi Alonso. And I read about extensive interviews with these guys. Xabi Alonso was getting his badges, was analyzing training, was like going back to his room afterwards and breaking everything down in his mind. And he was becoming a coach while he was still playing. And it's wonderful to see that he's having success, because he really he put his time in too. I mean, the guy is
It's not accidents. These things don't happen by accident. They happen because people put the work in.
And Liverpool, PSG, Barcelona, Benfica, Inter, Feyenoord. Feyenoord, this another one of those Dutch teams that who they beat, Juventus, right? And Club Brugge, Aston Villa, Dortmund. See if Gio Reyna gets off the bench against Lille, and that's your 16 there. And then I'm sure Pascal Jansen's pretty happy. Well, he's looking at both sides of it. His Hungarian side, the team that he left to come here, they were eliminated from Europa League. But AZ Alkmaar is in the final 16 in Europa League. They use the same format. And you don't know this, but I wanted to bring it up to you. They're playing Spurs. There you go.
All right. Hopefully Spurs can get healthy in time. They're getting a couple of players back. I was looking the other day on like FotMob, and their injury list was longer than their bench.
Well, that's that is.
It's been a tough year, and they won 2 in a row, like for the first time since September.
That is tough to deal with. All right, Roberto, let's kick it around. I've got to say, one of my favorite interviews at Coachella, 25 in all, but to sit with Bruce Arena is cool. And Bruce doesn't know me that well. He always looks at me and goes, yeah, we met, and but we sat for like 20 minutes, and he was great. I think, once he hears I'm from Jersey, that he asked about Charlie Stilitano, and everything went well. So, so I'm going to play this little piece because one thing I looked at when I saw their schedule, San Jose he's the head coach at San Jose in his first year, San Jose Earthquakes, at New England. New England, he had a very unkind ending in New England, and MLS suspended him for, quote, insensitive and inappropriate remarks. And there's a deeper story there, but here's his response. Well, just listen. This is what he had to say about going back to New England and the league doing this to him. Go ahead.
Things I noticed was San Jose at New England, and I also heard you publicly say you were a bit surprised that MLS would schedule that. Why'd you?
No, I wasn't surprised. I've actually imagined they would do that.
Okay.
Just to be a pain in the ass for me, right?
Yeah.
And then we also are playing, DC United on the same day we played them 30 years ago when I coached DC United here in San Jose. Okay. So they have that as well. So
that's kind of more of a fun one, but the New England game is a little.
They're not as dumb as you think, those people in the front office of MLS.
And then you've got Chicho Arango. Your opening game is against RSL, so he's, he may have a game he's looking forward to.
Before we got him, so I can't give the league any credit for that one.
I love Bruce. I love Bruce.
So look, he had to sit with the commissioner to get permission to be, a candidate to come back into the league again. He had to go through all this stuff. He had to go through therapy, sensitivity training. I mean, he did all that, and I just love the fact that he's just like, he is Bruce, and you're not going to.
I wouldn't want him any other way. I really wouldn't want him any other way. He's brilliant. And you know what's going to happen when he goes back to New England? I bet you that he gets a standing ovation from the fans.
Well, yeah, I think. Yeah,
he
I don't think.
it. and he got screwed while he was there.
He did. I don't believe that a couple of people there. I don't believe that those numbers are still saved in the contacts on either side. I believe that's well, and then Kevin Baxter with the LA Times. So I did this interview and I shared it with Kevin because I wanted him to hear it because he and Bruce are very close. A longtime writer covering the U.S. men's national team and the LA teams, Kevin Baxter. So he interviewed Bruce a day or two later, and here's what Bruce said. And these are I haven't heard him go much further than this, regarding New England. I'm very angry about the suspension I had, and I don't want to comment any further than that. But it's something that I thought was extremely unfair, and I didn't want to end my career like that. So it really struck him personally that he wanted to get back and get one more project done, and he's got a hell of a project at San Jose, man. Oh, my goodness.
And they're obviously opening their wallets a little bit, so that's definitely help. And that team is going to be better. There's no doubt that team's going to be competing in the top half of the table, in the standings. They're going to be, of the playoff teams, they're going to be in the top half. They're going to be up there. I'm sure of it. Because that's what Bruce does, and I bet you that when Bruce retires at some point, he's going to write a book about this. He's going to write a book and he's going to talk about this.
Well,
and I hope eventually he does, and he names names and all that, because what it comes down to, Glenn, you and I talk. We all talk within friends, and maybe we say things that. We won't say in public, or, we'll make jokes about things that we don't really believe that, what we're saying.
I know. We do that.
Something amusing or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But those are things that we say in confidence, right? Those are things that we say. We all do.
It would be, we say things that would be inappropriate if we were in another gathering. But
exactly.
Everybody
does this to a certain point.
Yeah, anytime I'm sitting with my coaching staff, all those years I coached, we said things in those offices that were, look, I'll say, that were, inappropriate in some ways. Maybe it was cursing, maybe whatever it was, it might not.
At the end of the day, what we get judged on, right, is how we act in public and how we act with other people. And I mean, I know how empathetic I am to everybody and everybody's struggles, and we talk about it all the time. And if anybody follows my social media, you absolutely know where I stand and where my heart is and all of these things. You don't betray somebody the way Bruce was betrayed. Okay? I don't care what he said in that meeting. We know where he is. We know what he stands. And for him to do that, I mean, for somebody to do that to him, I'm pissed for him.
Yeah. Well, it's but he's back. He's happy to be back in California. I mean, he's a Brooklyn boy, but and then Long Island, but he loves California. So, he's really I think he's enjoying himself. He dropped 30 pounds. I mean, he looked good.
Oh, good.
He really I asked him after we were done. I said, I don't. He chuckled. I don't know. I said, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I just want to let you know, you look great, man. It's like, you look great.
What I want to see are the conversations that he winds up having at some point with some of the tech bros out there in San Jose.
With some of the what?
Tech bros.
Tech bros?
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know what that, those are the guys, or the big investors in technology and things like that. Normally skew more right than left, per se.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's not going to get involved with that.
Bruce just what he says. I mean, it's not a matter of getting involved. Bruce just says what he could run into them in Starbucks, per se.
All right.
It'd be fun.
So I want to end. I always try to find something that's fun to end with. So as we all know, I'm sure, especially folks our age, Saturday Night Live just had their 50th celebration, 50th anniversary celebration, and they had Steve Martin do the monologue. And during the monologue, he had he had the following line: 894 people have hosted SNL, and it amazes me that only 2 of them have committed murders.
It was, by the way, I don't know, no, it wasn't him. It was, damn it.
What are you talking about?
It was
that was his line, though.
There was somebody who came. and I love the guy too. It was
Well,
one
don't
of
worry
the
about it.
writers. There was
We
one of
gotta
the
get
head
out of
writers
here.
of Saturday Night Live, former head writers, and I was a comedian on his own. I can't remember his name right now. Why am I blanking on this? And
Well,
he
don't worry about it.
came over and said it. Yes, it was while Steve Martin was hosting. And by the way, one of them, O.J. Simpson.
Okay.
That was facts, by the way. That wasn't just a throwaway line.
No, I'm sure. I know.
It was fact. And
So who's the other one?
And I'm trying to think. Well, it could have been Baldwin because he kills somebody accidentally on a set.
And he was in the audience.
He was part of the. He did some of the show.
Yeah, he was part of the thing.
He had
All
a
right.
little bit of turn. He's the longest. He is the one who has hosted the show the most, Alex Baldwin. And then somebody else who also might have been involved in a murder, but there were according to their count, and I guess OJ is one of them. There were two.
The murder's not funny. I just thought it was
It's a great line. I'm trying to think now, and I am blanking.
All right. Well, we're going to close the show, bud. So tomorrow, Saturday, opener, New York City at Inter Miami, 6:45 p.m. Myself and Maddie with NYCFC pregame live. We'll be there at the stadium, and we'll talk to you about what we're seeing. If we learn a little bit more between now and then, and play some clips for you. And then Roberto on the Spanish side, myself on the English side. 7:15 is the beginning of our live commentary with our pregame shows. Roberto will feature Alonso Martinez. I'll have the head coach, Pascal Janssen. Thanks to Shane for playing all those things for us here throughout. And, we can't wait for tomorrow. And thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you'll sync and join us tomorrow. For Roberto, I'm Glenn. Have a good night, everybody.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.